There is a food sitting in your refrigerator right now that doctors, dietitians, and fitness experts have recommended for decades. High protein, low sugar, gentle on blood sugar, one of the last safe foods left in the grocery store. Except for six of the biggest brands in America, that reputation no longer matches what's actually in the tub. I'm talking about cottage cheese. And before you take another bite, I want you to do something simple. Go get the tub, turn it around, and count the ingredients. Real cottage cheese needs 3, maybe 4. Cultured milk, cream, salt. That's the entire recipe. And it hasn't changed in over 100 years. So why do some of the most trusted tubs in the dairy aisle carry 10, 12, even 14 ingredients? Why is there corn-derived filler with a glycemic impact higher than table sugar sitting inside a food people eat specifically to manage their blood sugar? Why does one fat-free version need artificial coloring? To look white? Over the past 2 weeks, I went through the ingredient labels and public recall records of every major cottage cheese brand sold in the United States. 6 of them have quietly drifted a long, long way from real cottage cheese. 3 of them are still doing it right. And here's the twist that surprised me most. The cleanest tub on the entire shelf is also one of the cheapest, usually under $4. We're going from worst to best. And number 1 on the avoid list is a brand most people have never even thought to question. Before we start, I'd genuinely love to know, which cottage cheese is in your fridge right now? Drop the brand in the comments, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly where it lands. And if you find honest, label-by-label breakdowns like this useful, subscribe and tap the bell. We do this for a different everyday food every week, and you don't want the next one to pass you by. All right, let's flip some tubs. What real cottage cheese actually is. To judge these brands fairly, you need the baseline. Traditional cottage cheese is one of the simplest foods in the dairy case. Milk is cultured, meaning beneficial bacteria ferment it. The curds form naturally, and a little cream and salt create the rich dressing around them. Fermentation does the work. Time does the work. Good milk does the work. That process delivers what your body actually wants from this food. Complete dairy protein, mostly slow-digesting casein, which is why it keeps you full for hours and why it's so popular as an evening protein for muscle maintenance, something especially important as we get older. It's naturally low in sugar, and when live cultures survive into the tub, you're getting gut-friendly bacteria too. Hold that picture in your mind, 3 or 4 ingredients, because every brand on the avoid list is selling you something built very differently. And for your health, those differences are not cosmetic. What real cottage cheese actually is. To judge these brands fairly, you need the baseline. Traditional cottage cheese is one of the simplest foods in the dairy case. Milk is cultured, meaning beneficial bacteria ferment it. The curds form naturally, and a little cream and salt create the rich dressing around them. Fermentation does the work. Time does the work. Good milk does the work. That process delivers what your body actually wants from this food. Complete dairy protein, mostly slow-digesting casein, which is why it keeps you full for hours, and why it's so popular as an evening protein for muscle maintenance, something especially important as we get older. It's naturally low in sugar, and when live cultures survive into the tub, you're getting gut-friendly bacteria too. Hold that picture in your mind. 3 or 4 ingredients. Because every brand on the avoid list is selling you something built very differently. And for your health, those differences are not cosmetic. Avoid list. Number 6. Breakstones. We start with the brand wearing the oldest costume in the aisle. Breakstones traces its story back to 1882. The label is designed to feel like your grandmother's kitchen. And honestly, she probably did buy it. But here's the first thing worth knowing. Breakstones is no longer the family dairy company its packaging suggests. As part of a multi-billion-dollar deal, Kraft Heinz sold its natural cheese business, Breakstones included, to Lactalis, a massive French dairy conglomerate. The heritage logo stayed on the front. The ownership behind it changed completely. Now flip the tub. On the 4% small curd, you'll find modified food starch, xanthan gum, guar gum, and calcium phosphate added into the dressing. Even the milder 2% version leans on tapioca starch, a thickener doing the structural job that real cream used to do on its own. Why does that matter for your health? Modified food starch is a refined carbohydrate filler. It contributes bulk and texture, essentially zero nutrition, And for anyone watching blood sugar, it's one more source of fast-digesting starch hiding in a food you chose because it was supposed to be low-carb and protein-dense. The flavored single-serve cups are worse. Added sugar, modified cornstarch, potassium sorbate as a preservative, natural flavor, a phrase that legally tells you almost nothing, and in some versions, protein that lands under 12 grams. That's a sweetened snack cup wearing gym clothes. And the track record? In 2014, roughly 1.2 million cases of cottage cheese made at a California facility were recalled after ingredients were held at improper temperatures. In 2019, another recall pulled thousands of cases after consumers reported finding red plastic and metal fragments in the product, with multiple complaints logged before the recall went out. A founding date from 1882 tells you when the brand began. It tells you nothing about what's in the tub in 2026. Avoid list. Number 5. Knudsen. Here's where it gets interesting. If Breakstones is the East Coast heritage story, Knudsen is the West Coast version, a California dairy identity going back to 1919. And Knudsen is owned by Lactalis, the same French conglomerate. Two different regional family dairy stories on two coasts, one parent company running both. Most shoppers reaching for a local-feeling label have no idea. The low-fat tub reads like a chemistry worksheet: modified food starch, calcium phosphate, xanthan gum, guar gum, and added whey protein concentrate fort, a dried protein powder blended in to push the front panel protein number higher than the dairy alone would deliver. Two health flags here. First, sodium. Some servings reach around 400 milligrams in half a cup. General guidance caps daily sodium near 2,300 milligrams, and for anyone managing blood pressure, many doctors suggest staying well under that. One small bowl of this cottage cheese can eat nearly a fifth of your entire daily budget before breakfast is over. For a channel audience like ours, one where blood pressure is a daily conversation, that number matters. Second, the fat-free version. It adds artificial color, mono and diglycerides, sodium phosphate, potassium sorbate, and acetic acid. Sit with the coloring for a second. Cottage cheese is naturally white. The only reason to dye it is that the stripped-down, rebuilt product doesn't look right without help. Open Food Facts, the independent food database, classifies Knudsen cottage cheese as Nova Group 4, the ultra-processed tier. That's the same processing category as instant noodles and packaged snack cakes. And growing research keeps linking high ultra-processed food intake to worse cardiovascular and metabolic outcomes. Your healthy protein snack is sitting in the same processing tier as a soft drink. Knudsen products were also part of that same 2014 temperature storage recall. Same facility, same parent, same problem, wearing two different logos. Avoid list. Number 4. Great value. Walmart. Let me be clear about something first. Cheap food is not the problem. Affordable protein is a good thing. The question is what the low price is built on, and whether the label is honest about it. Flip a great value tub and count the texture crew. Guar gum, carrageenan, mono and diglycerides, xanthan gum, carob bean gum, with potassium sorbate preserving it all. Some varieties in the line add maltodextrin and locust bean gum on top. That's a full squad of industrial stabilizers doing a job that properly made curds and cream do by themselves. Mono and diglycerides deserve a closer look for anyone thinking about heart health. The FDA banned artificial trans fats from the food supply in 2018 because of their link to heart disease. But mono and diglycerides, which the Environmental Working Group has flagged as a possible source of small amounts of trans fats, sit in a regulatory gray zone because they're classified as emulsifiers rather than fats. If you're watching your cholesterol, that's a detail the front of the tub will never mention. There's also no stated commitment from the brand to RBST-free milk. RBST is a synthetic growth hormone that increases milk production. It's not permitted in Canada, the EU, Australia, or Japan, but remains legal in the US. Milk from treated cows has been noted to contain higher levels of IGF-1, a growth factor some studies have associated with certain cancer risks. The research is still evolving, but without an RBST-free pledge, you simply can't know what's in your tub. It's also documented that RBST use raises the rate of udder infections in cows, which increases antibiotic use in the herd. But the biggest issue arrived recently. In early 2026, Saputo, the manufacturer producing this cottage cheese for Walmart, issued a recall after California regulators found the dairy may not have been properly pasteurized. Pasteurization is the single step that exists to kill dangerous bacteria. When it fails, the people at greatest risk are exactly the people watching channels like this one: older adults, anyone with a weakened immune system, and pregnant women. Walmart moves more groceries than any retailer in America. When that much trust meets a pasteurization failure, this stops being an abstract label discussion. Quick pause. If this investigation is opening your eyes so far, a like genuinely helps this reach more people who are still buying tubs without flipping them. Now, number 3, claims to be award-winning. Avoid list. Number 3, Prairie Farms. This one stings because the marketing doesn't just imply quality, it campaigns on it. Blue ribbon imagery, references to dairy competition recognition. Everything about the front panel says county fair, family farm, best in show. The back panel says guar gum, mono and diglycerides, xanthan gum, carrageenan, carabine gum, 5 separate stabilizers, plus maltodextrin as a filler and potassium sorbate as a preservative. Let's talk about maltodextrin, because for this audience it might be the single most important ingredient in this entire video. Maltodextrin is a highly refined carbohydrate, usually made from corn. Its glycemic index is commonly cited between $85 and $105 higher than table sugar, which sits around 65. Read that again. There is an ingredient in this cottage cheese that can spike blood sugar faster than sugar itself. If you're managing prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, and I know many of you are, cottage cheese is supposed to be one of your safest foods. Slow protein, minimal carbs, steady glucose. Maltodextrin quietly undermines the exact reason you bought the product. It adds no protein, it adds no nutrition, it adds bulk, and it lowers the manufacturer's cost. And about those awards, recognition for milk quality is real and fine. But a ribbon for dairy doesn't audit the finished formula. The award is about the milk. The stabilizer blend is about the margin. Those are 2 different stories, and only one of them is printed on the front. Avoid list. Number 2. Hood. If you grew up in New England, Hood isn't a brand, it's scenery. You've seen it your whole life, which is exactly why most people never read this label. Familiarity is the strongest anesthetic in the grocery store. One Hood low-fat container can carry whey protein concentrate, modified food starch, and 3 separate gums, guar, locust bean, and carrageenan, working together to build a texture the underlying milk can't hold on its own. Then sorbic acid, a chemical mold inhibitor, and phosphoric acid to manage acidity. The whipped and flavored versions stack even more. Think about what 3 gums in combination tells you. A single stabilizer might be a small assist. 3 gums engineered to work together means the structure of this food is fundamentally manufactured. And here's a fair question about freshness. Genuinely fresh cottage cheese doesn't need a mold inhibitor. It needs to be eaten while it's fresh. When a product requires chemical protection to survive its own shelf life, that tells you something about the timeline between production and your spoon. Consumers have also frequently reported inconsistent texture between batches of the same Hood product, which suggests variation at the facility level, not one bad tub. And the recall record backs up the concern. In 2022, HP Hood recalled hundreds of thousands of cases of cottage cheese over a risk of plastic contamination. Then, in 2024, another recall went out after containers were found holding completely undeclared ingredients, including pineapple, sugar, modified cornstarch, and phosphoric acid. None of it on the label. If you have food allergies or strict dietary restrictions, undeclared ingredients aren't a paperwork issue. They're a genuine safety hazard. 2 major recalls in 2 years is not bad luck. It's a pattern. Before number 1, you need to understand the machine behind all of this, because every brand on this list is running the same play. Real cottage cheese is expensive to make well. Cream costs money. Proper curd formation takes time and quality milk. So instead of paying for those, many manufacturers start with the cheapest possible base, thin skim or fat-free milk, and rebuild the eating experience in a factory. Starch firms up weak curd. Gums make watery dressing behave like cream. Whey protein powder inflates the protein number on the front panel without using enough real dairy to earn it. One ingredient deserves its own explanation: carrageenan. It appears across several brands on this list. It's a thickener extracted from red seaweed, and the FDA's official position is that food-grade carrageenan is safe at current exposure levels. That's the established view, and I want to state it fairly, but it's also one of the most debated additives in dairy. Multiple peer-reviewed studies have raised concerns about intestinal inflammation, and critics note that carrageenan may partially degrade during digestion. The degraded form, called polygeenan, is classified as a possible carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. Polygeenan is not what's added to your food, and the science here is genuinely unsettled. But if you have gut issues, IBS, or inflammatory conditions, it's a reasonable ingredient to simply avoid, especially when clean alternatives cost the same or less. And here's what makes all of it legal: the federal standard of identity for cottage cheese, the official definition, explicitly permits a long menu of optional stabilizers. A tub can contain guar gum, carrageenan, locust bean gum, xanthan gum, and modified starch, and still legally be called cottage cheese. No asterisk required. The regulation allows it. The marketing never has to mention it. Number 1 is where this system operates most aggressively and most invisibly. Avoid list. Number 1. Country Fresh and the rotating value tub category. Country Fresh isn't really one brand. It's a template. The same manufacturing formula moves through regional grocery chains under different names depending on where you shop. The logo rotates, the wholesome farm imagery rotates. The formula underneath doesn't. Here's the pattern: cultured non-fat milk as the base, stripped of fat, thin and watery on its own, then rebuilt with maltodextrin, guar gum, carrageenan, mono and diglycerides, and locust bean gum. Natural and artificial flavoring layered on top, a preservative to close it out, and a folksy dairy logo on the front. When the first ingredient is fat-free milk and the next 6 lines are thickeners, emulsifiers, and fillers, you are not buying dairy with a few additives. You're buying an industrial product formatted to resemble dairy. Why does this rank number 1? Invisibility. Breakstones has a name you can research. Hood has a history you can trace. But when the brand name changes store to store and region to region, the shortcut of brand reputation is completely disabled. You can't learn one name and stay safe everywhere. The only thing that never rotates, the only consistent truth across every version of this product you make, is the ingredient list on the back, which is exactly why you need the next section. Quick question before the checks. Which of these 6 surprised you most? For me, it was the artificial coloring. Cottage cheese. Dyed to look like cottage cheese. Tell me yours in the comments. And if you're getting value out of this, that like button takes 1 second and genuinely helps the channel. The 10-second shopping checks. 3 checks. 10 seconds. No chemistry degree required. Check 1. The tilt test. Tip the tub sideways and watch the liquid. Real cottage cheese releases thin, clear whey that separates quickly, because nothing is holding it back. A gum-heavy product releases something thick, slow, and gel-like, because gums are engineered specifically to bind water. If the liquid clings and pulls, someone put something in there to make it do that. Check 2. The first 3 ingredients. Read only those. You want cultured milk, cream, and salt in any order. The moment a starch, a gum, maltodextrin, or whey protein concentrate shows up in the first 3 lines, you have your answer. Put it back. Check 3. The protein source check. If the front panel shouts a huge protein number and whey protein concentrate sits high on the ingredient list, that number is partly built from added powder, not dairy curd. Real cottage cheese made from quality milk hits strong protein on its own. The powder is a confession. Now, the 3 brands that pass every check. Best. Number 3. Friendship Dairies. No ribbons, no farm campaign, no founder mythology on the shelf. Friendship Dairies has been making cottage cheese for over a century and, through every wave of industry consolidation and cost-cutting, somehow never changed the thing that works. The label: cultured non-fat milk, salt, enzymes. That's it. No gums, no starch, no carrageenan, no preservatives, no powder. And here's the health payoff. Some Friendship tubs deliver up to 16 grams of protein per serving, every gram from actual dairy. For anyone using cottage cheese for muscle maintenance, satiety, or blood sugar control, this is the food doing exactly what you bought it to do. It's widely stocked and priced alongside the mid-range brands on the avoid list. The very existence of Friendship proves something important. Clean, affordable, widely available cottage cheese is entirely possible, which means every additive in those other tubs was never there for your benefit. Best. Number 2. Good culture. This brand prints its promise on the front. No gums, no carrageenan, no preservatives, and the ingredient list keeps every word of it. Organic skim milk, organic whole milk, organic cream, sea salt, live and active cultures. Complete formula. Nothing else. Good Culture was founded in 2015 by someone who cleaned up his own diet and couldn't find a single cottage cheese that met the standard he was eating by, so he built one. The brand uses a cold fermentation process designed to keep live probiotic cultures viable all the way into the tub on your shelf. For gut health, that's a real, functional difference. You're getting active cultures, not just the memory of them. And shoppers noticed. The brand reportedly grew around 80% in 2023, and by 2024 had overtaken Breakstones to become the second best-selling branded cottage cheese in America, behind only our number one. Fast Company reported it crossed roughly $100 million in annual revenue. That growth didn't come from ads. It came from people flipping tubs. You'll pay around $5 to $6, more than most. But this is a traceable premium. Better dairy, organic sourcing, living cultures, and the genuine absence of everything on the avoid list. Depending on variety, up to 19 grams of protein per serving. The classic low-fat runs about 14 grams for roughly 80 calories per half cup. When a price is higher and the reason is real, that's a fair trade. Best. Number 1. Daisy, and the brand to actually memorize before your next grocery run. Daisy. The complete ingredient list: cultured skim milk, cream, salt. 3 ingredients. No starch, no gums, no preservatives, no powder, no natural flavor standing in for something else. Around 13 grams of protein per serving from nothing but properly made dairy. Now here's the detail that should permanently change how you see this entire shelf. Daisy is routinely one of the cheapest tubs in the dairy case, often around $3.50, frequently the lowest price per unit on the shelf. Sit with that. The most honest cottage cheese in America, the shortest label, nothing to hide, is also one of the least expensive. Every extra dollar spent on the avoid list brands wasn't buying better food, it was buying more ingredients, and every one of those ingredients exists to compensate for cheaper milk. You were paying a premium for the cost of the disguise. That's the most honest summary of this whole market. The product built on the fewest ingredients costs the least, and the products built on the most ingredients often charge more, because manufacturing the illusion of quality costs more than making the real thing. So here's where it all lands. 6 brands: Breakstones, Knudsen, Great Value, Prairie Farms, Hood, and the Country Fresh rotating label category are selling reconstructed versions of a food that should need 3 ingredients. Heritage logos, blue ribbons, farm imagery, none of it describes what's in the tub. Recall records, artificial coloring, ultra-processed classifications, and 5 stabilizer blends describe it far better. 3 brands, Friendship Dairies, Good Culture, and Daisy, still make cottage cheese the way it's always been made when it's made honestly. Real milk, real cream, real cultures. Tonight, go to your fridge, tilt the tub, watch the liquid, then flip it over and read 3 lines. In 10 seconds, you'll know whether you're holding food or a formulation. If this changed how you'll shop, share it with someone who's still buying without flipping. And tell me in the comments which everyday food we should investigate next. Yogurt, peanut butter, sliced bread? You vote, we dig. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next investigation. Take care of yourself, and always read the back of the label.